showing his frustration
like the teacher to the naughty child. he was gesturing him.
He was gesturing very. It's almost like we're used to this with the cultures. Very Greek, very demonstrative, and the frustration and very verbal and visible what they're upset with. But
looks like the places for the Champions League were really going down to the wire. Jack, what is going on with Man City, Nottingham Forest? Because it looks like your team, Newcastle, is safe now.
It looks good. It looks good for Newcastle.
Only 6 points left.
Yeah, and the opportunity to maybe go second if they beat Arsenal, who they're only 2 points behind. So it's looking very rosy.
Don't be greedy now. You want the second place?
I would love the second place. Second place in the League Cup, that would be unbelievable. Beyond even my dreams at the start of the season. Fantastic. But yeah, third would be amazing. I mean, I'm happy with fifth just to get Champions League, but third at the moment, as it stands, unbelievable. And to beat Chelsea was such a big result, with how it stands at the moment, how tight it all is, how we've been saying for a few weeks now.
Yeah, but huge. I watched the match and I was wondering what your team were doing in the second half. They looked too nervous.
Yeah, I think obviously you're at home, they feel the pressure, they're 1-0 up, and Chelsea are, they've not been that good the last few months, I'd say, Chelsea, but they've got that attacking threat. And it did help that Nicholas Jackson decided to elbow Botman in the head and get sent off. And up to that point, it was a little bit nervy. And that's the thing when you take the lead so early on after 2 minutes, what do you do? What's the game plan then? Do you try and get more, or do you try and...
No, get more.
Try and hold it. I mean, but the managers don't always do that, do they? They sit back and then try and game manage for as much as they can, wait for the other team to come onto them and then try and hit them. But... on the counter-attack, but
okay.
As a fan, you just want to see them go for more and more and keep going. Press the momentum.
For the second goal, you need to go for the second goal.
Yeah, ideally you do.
Because 1-0 is, anything can happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we, the fans, want it to happen, but it doesn't always translate onto the pitch, does it?
Yeah, but if, let's say, you score in the 4th, 5th minute, I mean, game management for 85, 90 minutes.
Not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But it was, I was hoping after that early goal, it was going to be, like we've seen in recent years, Newcastle. I remember they went 3 or 4-0 up against Tottenham at home a couple of years ago after about 20 minutes. I was hoping for that, but it's not always the way it pans out. Chelsea were back into the game and things like that. But yeah, I think Newcastle deserved to win on reflection. And it was so good to see that goal go in by Bruno at the end as well, just to kill it all off. And, there's that relief then going towards the end of the game. But between the goal and the red card and the red card and the goal, he was still a bit nervous, and they couldn't close it out until the last second.
But even in the stands, you could feel the nervousness.
I think it didn't help that it was a really early kickoff. I mean, the atmosphere was good considering it was an early kickoff. I think it was 12 o'clock local time, so it was really early game. But so I think it was part of that as well. And it's hard to get the crowd going when it's such an early kickoff.
You mean they didn't have enough time to go to the pubs and
exactly
have a couple of pints before they go
to or from the night before they're still they still have the bit of the headache or the hangover. But no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how the performance was or whatever. It was great to get the 3 points. Huge 3 points.
And looking at Nottingham Forest, they look deflated. I don't know.
They've run out of steam, haven't they?
They run out of steam, exactly.
And it's just a shame to see. I mean, I've said all along, I want Forest to be in there as a neutral. They've with that disappointing draw, against Leicester, it still guarantees them European football. People are forgetting that, it does. But it's not what they want. They don't want to just guarantee any old competition. They want the Champions League. They've spent most of the season in 3rd place, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. And apart from that, the money is in the Champions League.
Yeah, the money's there, the prestige is there, exactly. And it's huge for a club like them. And they've been, like I just said, they've been in and amongst it the whole season. Just to drop off at the end would be so disappointing. And the frustrations are getting to them, aren't they? Yeah,
but we have seen this over and over again in the Premier League. You play Leicester City; they have been relegated, and they're just playing for their pride. They have not, but at the same time they have nothing to lose. And the other team who is chasing the Champions League place, they just
I don't know. It's pressure again, but
pressure.
I think the side thing about this as well. Leicester were not the ideal team to play because Leicester and Nottingham Forest have a big rivalry. They're reasonably local to each other. The fans wanted Leicester's fans, and they know they're down. They know they've been terrible all season, but they had one saving grace. They wanted to stop Nottingham Forest getting in the Champions League or really affect it, and that gave the players that extra motivation. I think. That's what the manager said after the game, Van Nistelrooy. He said, we gave something to the fans. We knew how much it meant to them, even though we were already relegated, to try and get something from the game, to dent Forest.
Okay, I can understand that.
And that was unfortunate for Forest that they were playing Leicester and the emotion around it all. But even so, Leicester are a poor team and they should have beaten them at home. It should be a home banker, as they say. It should be a guaranteed home win. I know nothing's guaranteed, but it's an easier opponent, really.
Exactly.
And it's going to get difficult for them now with the 2 games left.
And what are your thoughts about Marinakis?
Yeah, we need to talk about Marinakis.
Going on the pitch and.
Yeah, I'm sure for those who don't know, you should know because it's been all around the media that Evangelos Marinakis, the Forest owner, decided to run onto the pitch or go onto the pitch. I don't think he runs anywhere, does he? He sort of stormed onto the pitch and approached. Well, it looked like he was approaching just. I don't know, maybe the one of the backroom staff or the medical team, but I think he came across Nuno, didn't he, on the pitch?
Yeah.
The manager.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was having a go at Nuno a little bit about showing his frustration
like the teacher to the naughty child. he was gesturing him.
He was gesturing very. Yeah. It's almost like we're used to this with the cultures. Very Greek, very demonstrative, and the frustration and very verbal and visible what they're upset with. But it turned out Nuno revealed what it was about. It was about Taiwo Onyi, the striker, who was supposedly injured, and the medical team. There was a video of the medical team saying, "Yes, he's good to stay on." Actually, he's good to stay on because the TV station showed it. And then afterwards, shortly afterwards, Nuno made his final substitution and brought somebody else off. So Awoniyi, the striker, stayed on, and then a minute later he broke down injured again. So he was frustrated, Marinakis, and he said in a statement that, the medical team made an error. They misjudgment, and that's why I'm frustrated. I'm not frustrated with Nuno. I'm not frustrated. He's saying he's not frustrated. Of course he's frustrated, but he's saying we're all in this together for the final 2 games. He had to release a statement to try and calm it down.
Jack, to put it mildly, he was telling him off.
Well, yeah, but obviously the statement's just all PR. But he was frustrated, very frustrated, and we've seen this before. He's been a bit of a maverick, hasn't he? He used to have Matt Clattenburg, I think it was the former referee. He had him as an advisor to talk about the referees' decisions.
This is what you do in the Greek league.
Yeah, and he was basically saying the referees are cheats and all this sort of stuff. He's been quite a character for the Premier League, and the British fans are not, and the media, they're not used to this. But I know we're used to this over in Greece and Cyprus. But in the UK, this is a new thing. The crazy owner.
In most Premier League, the fans in most of the Premier League clubs, they don't even know the names of the CEOs and the chairman, apart from United and these top teams.
And the cameras love him. The TV cameras love him. They show him in his seat. He's like that, sat in his seat, all with his arms out like that. He's just he's entertainment. He's box office.
They showed him waiting for the players in the tunnel and stuff like that. He's a big character.
He's good for the league. He's good for the entertainment, but
he's big in general.
He's big all round. I wouldn't say that to his face, especially when you see how angry he gets. He'll be chasing you. But
actually, he's a frequent visitor of Cyprus. So be careful what you're saying.
Yeah. Hopefully we don't bump into him. Maybe one of those nice bars in Limassol. But we'll see. We'll see. But it's a shame for Forest. It's a shame how it turned out.
Yeah.
But they got a couple of big games coming up, and they have got Chelsea at home on the final game of the season. That's going to be huge. And they might not, because of the form Villa are showing, it could be just for the Europa
anyway,
League,
we do like fairy tales, and it's one of the fairy tales this season.
It is,
so far. And,
we want to see somebody different in the Champions League. Obviously, I hope Newcastle get there looking like it, and I hope Forest are one of the others.
Okay. And what about Man City?
What was that? I didn't see the game because I watched the other ones before, and then I was checking my phone throughout, and then I thought, it's 90 minutes 0-0 still. I couldn't believe it was 0-0. I mean, I don't think they've there's not been many games where they've kept a clean sheet all season, Southampton. So I was so surprised to see that. And then after the game, Ruben Diaz, the centre-back for Man City, was saying, oh, it's all because they're negative, Southampton. This is the way they're playing. They didn't want to play the game and they frustrated us.
What do you mean, Southampton?
Yeah, he was complaining about Southampton, and he was at the press.
Most of the teams ran over Southampton.
He was saying this is the way.
They were the first team that were relegated before Christmas.
He was saying basically Southampton had a game plan. It was like anti-football, and it was just to stop us from playing.
All right.
But that's obvious. And then the Southampton manager responded and said, yes, of course, that's the game plan.
Right.
They didn't even have a manager. They have this guy who's like temporary, don't they?
I thought Man United were anti-football in the Premier League.
I mean, it was bad excuses. It was bad. He's obviously frustrated after the game. And then they asked Pep about it. And he said, no, not at all. They're entitled to play whatever way they want to. It's up to us to break them down.
This is the Premier League. It's not La Liga. It's not Serie A. It's not the Greek League. We might be relegated a long time ago, and you just fighting for your pride. And then they are not going to just stay there, and lose 4-5, 6-0 because it's Liverpool or Man City or I don't know. This is Premier League. That's why we love the Premier League.
It is. And like I said about Leicester having that motivation for the fans, obviously Southampton had the motivation because they now don't have the joint worst record of all time with Derby. They're up to 12 points. So that was good for them. Obviously, they didn't want to have that record as the joint worst ever team in terms of points in the Premier League. So they're away from that they can relax now. Well, they can relax. They're already down, but they don't have to fight for points to try and beat the record. They've already beaten that. But that's a huge surprising result again. Man City, they've been playing quite well recently, or at least getting the victories recently. Then they bring Haaland back, starting him for the first time for a while because of his injury problems, and then he doesn't find the net, and they couldn't find him in the box. It just seemed to be every cross they were doing. I watched the highlights, were overhit. So they've got a problem for next weekend for the FA Cup final. Do they go back to the players who were performing when they were winning, or do they stick with Haaland and put him because he's their star striker?
Haaland, because he's been out, he's been out of the team for such a long time. You need to find a rhythm. You cannot just, it's not a switch and you just press it and it's on and off. It's sports.
I think Pep was hoping he'd have a game against an easier opponent to get some minutes in, maybe get a couple of goals and get his confidence. And he's getting up to speed, but it didn't seem to materialize.
Yeah, I can understand that, but this is especially in sports like that. I mean, in any sport, you need to get back into your rhythm. This is natural. So we'll see what's going to happen with the FA Cup final.
We need to talk about Liverpool as well, because we obviously watched the Liverpool-Arsenal game, 2-0 up, 2 goals in 2 minutes. They looked like they were going to blow Arsenal away. Arsenal all over the place. Probably still a bit hungover from the Champions League defeat, sickener for them in midweek. And then they came back. They did well to come back in the second half, I must admit. They did play much better. There's obviously a good team talk from Arteta at half-time. He would have really got into them, and because it's already embarrassing enough because at the beginning of the game they had to do they had to give the guard of honour where they stand to the side and clap all the Liverpool players as they come out. That must have been really annoying for them because they seem to have to be doing this every year. I remember them doing it before. I remember them doing it years ago for Man United. They've done it for Chelsea. I just remember them doing it. Arsenal always the bridesmaids, aren't they, at the wedding? But
okay. You are enjoying rabbiting into the Arsenal fans, right?
Well, I just think it's I don't know. There's something I don't. He's not hugely likable, Mikel Arteta. I don't know. It's just the way he is, his mannerisms. He's maybe he's a bit too emotional, but he said when they lost to PSG that they were the best team in the competition, which I don't think many people, maybe apart from Arsenal fans, would agree with that anyway. And he comes, and I think he does. I know he doesn't like Newcastle because we've had a few battles against Newcastle, which we will resume next week in the league. But I don't know. I think we want to see that, and I want to see Arsenal challenged because I want to see a challenge to Liverpool. I wanted to see that throughout the season. I've just been frustrated with them, as I would be with any club, that they've just tailed away and it's just left Liverpool. And Liverpool haven't really been that good recently, the last few games, because they know they're so far ahead.
Yeah, but they have been so inconsistent, Arsenal.
Yeah,
everybody was hoping that there would be competition till the end. For the teams going for the championship. For the title. But it didn't happen, and it's just they deflated so early on. before the end of the season, and it's really disappointing in general for the Premier League.
It is, because the last few seasons they've been something like 12, 13 points clear ahead of what they're at now. If they'd have been performing to those levels, they would have been right up there with Liverpool, challenging to the last day. But one thing about Liverpool we need to mention is the fans' reaction to Trent Alexander-Arnold. We know he's leaving the club at the end of the season. We know Van Dijk and Mo Salah both got the new deals that they wanted, because that wasn't resolved until recently. But Trent was the one who rejected the new deal, and he's going to leave for free. When he came on, he was on the bench. When he came on, replaced Bradley, Conor Bradley, the right back. A lot of Liverpool fans, more than you'd expect, were booing. They were booing Trent Alexander-Arnold, and they were chanting Conor Bradley's name, and they were chanting Steven Gerrard's name. Obviously, that's a reference to when Gerrard stayed there. So they were booing him, and it was getting to the players. You could see.
I don't agree with this kind of.
That was strange and surprising and disappointing.
But he was at the club for so long.
Yeah, 20 years since he was a kid.
I mean, he did his best for so many years. To do that because he decided to, get more money or whatever, and it looks like he's going to Spain.
Yeah, most likely Real Madrid.
Yeah, and or maybe he wanted a new challenge. Okay, this is show your appreciation, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't think there's any need for the booing. I mean, that's an unusual thing to do, but and especially when it's a local lad. I think the problem with some fans
is this exactly why it's happening, because it's a local lad coming through the system. It's not like you got a transferring player from Spain or Germany.
Yeah, just a general player from
and then after he's for 3 years he's top of his game, and then he moved on.
I think the problem with the Liverpool fans, apart from that, that's the main reason. But other reasons, I think, is because he's leaving the club with no money coming in. It's not like he's leaving and they're getting 100 million for him. He's going on a free. It was up to the club to renew the contract, and to try and tie him down to sell him for value. But he's leaving the club basically. He's performed really well, but they're not getting anything for him.
So you think they are against what is happening because the club is not going to get any money?
I think they're angry because he's leaving. They think he should stay there as a local lad. But I'm also think they're annoyed that he's wound his contract. He's let his contract run down, which means he'll leave the club with no money when he goes, and he'll get a massive pay day at Real Madrid because they won't have to pay a fee for him. He'll get huge wages.
Yeah, Jack. But you need to understand that when you're coming through the ranks, the first few contracts, they are much less than the players that you bring in.
Yeah, but I think he's had a few renewals and he's on big money at Liverpool.
And afterwards, you have to establish yourself, prove yourself that you are worth this 150,000 a week or 200,000 a week or whatever. And Liverpool, they have been really, with their financial planning, they have been really sensible. If you compare them with Chelsea now and Man United and other clubs, the handling of their financials, they've been really sensible. I mean, if you remember a few years back when against Mo Salah was on top of his game, and there were again discussion about renewal of his contract, they went out of their way to pay that kind of money for Mo Salah to keep him.
They obviously didn't do that with Alexander-Arnold, did they?
Yes.
Or else he would have stayed.
Exactly.
I think he probably would have stayed, unless he just really wants that new challenge. But
probably, who knows? Okay. Regarding Spurs and Man United, there is nothing to discuss because it looks like they are competing who is to finish 17th.
What's going on? I don't know. Without going into the detail, because we talk about the same stuff every week. How on earth do you get in a situation where the two of the worst, apart from the relegated teams who are all championship clubs anyway, let's face it, in terms of quality, how do the two worst teams in the league, apart from them, perform so well in Europe? Maybe it looks really bad on Europe because the teams they're coming up against, they seem to beat, and Man United are unbeaten in 14 matches in the Europa League.
Yes.
That's just crazy. And then they can't find a win at all in the league. At home as well. At home they keep getting.
You don't have the motivation in the Premier League.
It seems to have been gone for a long time.
Yes.
And it's bad for Amarim. He comes out with
Yes.
some strange things as well.
And that's why I think this is the reason why he keeps playing in the starting 11. I mean, he could have had some academy players in the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay, but because he needs them for the
He needs to keep
final.
them fresh as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a difficult one for him.
Yes, so he needs to.
And you've got a striker like Højlund who just doesn't have any confidence. He doesn't seem to be up to the level. They need to sell Højlund, don't they? Let's face it. They find a way to sell him to get some money because he's not the answer, is he?
No, but I think it's unfair on the kid because they brought him in without an experienced centre forward to ease him into the Premier League.
Yeah, it was bad planning that.
Yeah, because he's too young. I mean, come on.
He wasn't the main man they should have brought in. They should have brought as a secondary.
And he's not probably, I mean, Garnacho, he's not the player to, put the crosses in for him to run into the crosses. I mean, he was unlucky that Diallo on the other side, he was injured for such a long time because he's put some crosses in. So this is and all sorts of problems in the attacking side of Man United. So okay, and they paid a lot of money for him as well.
Real good money for him, big money.
And in my opinion, okay, I don't know if they sell him, they're not going to recover a lot of money anyway. And what is going to happen? Keep Zirkzee and sell Højlund. They need to bring a top striker, top centre forward next season.
You need I don't know who that would be, but maybe like a Harry Kane or maybe
somebody with
Ollie Watkins,
with that kind of experience and presence in the box.
Yeah, and in the Premier League, preferably.
And definitely in the Premier League because it's okay. I see the guy and immediately say this player is not for the Premier League, but at the same time he's too young, and he's not getting any service for him to score goals.
What is a better season for you? Is it I know there's 5 places now for the Champions League. If Man United finished 5th and got into the Champions League, is that better than winning the Europa League and getting into the Champions League?
No, because it's a trophy.
So the trophy's still better, even if it's like 17th in Europa League.
No.
I mean, that's what people are asking.
Money-wise, is the 5th place in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Okay, but
from the financials, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, in the last 12 years since Alex Ferguson retired, it's been in the Premier League very mediocre. Okay, apart from I think 1 year when Solskjaer was finished second.
Yeah, second, yeah.
But at the same time, they won last year the FA Cup, the year before the League Cup. If they win the Europa League, it's the 3rd trophy in 3 years.
Yeah, technically, yeah. And it's always disregarding the league.
In these average times for Manchester United.
A trophy is a trophy. You're just happy to have anything as a trophy.
Exactly. And is this winning mentality. You are building winning mentality by winning trophies, not by finishing 5th or 6th or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
It might be problematic though next season if you win the Europa League and you get into the Champions League next season straight into it. You're not going to be able to get away with the performances that you have in the Europa League, are you? Because you're up against so much better quality teams.
No,
so
definitely.
It might be 2 bad seasons. It might be the league again might be bad, and the Champions League in Europe might be bad.
Okay,
could be a problem.
It could be, but you're just we are ahead of.
I'm getting a bit ahead of time. That's for next season.
So we'll see what's going to happen with players coming in, players going out. The pre-season and
a lot to come.
Yes. So and it will be first time pre-season for Ruben Amorim as well. So we give him plenty of time to work on the players, and that's why I don't disagree. Even though he keeps saying that I wanted to come next year, not in the middle of the season. In my opinion, it's an advantage for Man United and for him to evaluate the squad, okay, makes his proposals who he believes they need to go be transferred out or run out of their contracts, Eriksen and I don't know what other players they
like
need to go.
Casemiro, people like this. Yeah.
Lindelof and the players, his players to come in with the profile that everybody will agree that they need for this type of system.
Yes.
Okay, which is another. So this weekend, the penultimate day of the Premier League, we have Aston Villa Tottenham. More important, much more. The importance is on Aston Villa because they're chasing the top 5 places. Chelsea, Man United.
It's another good one.
Okay, we have on Saturday we have the FA Cup final, Crystal Palace, Man City, and we have Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Nottingham Forest. They need to get the result. Nottingham Forest away.
Yeah, big pressure.
Brentford, Fulham, Leicester, Ipswich, Arsenal, Newcastle. Another important match.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. That's massive.
And on Monday we have Brighton, Liverpool, which is not really important match. So this is any mistakes cannot be rectified now.
Every individual error, every decision from the referee really matters.
We said the same thing last week, and this is what we're going to. I mean, but I think the 5th place, especially the 5th place, will be decided on the last kick of the last day of the season.
Maybe even in that Nottingham Forest Chelsea match.
Probably, yes.
So, depends on how Villa get on, but yeah.
So we'll be in front of the TV watching that match.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. That's 2 weeks. You said
with much anticipation, even though we don't support either of the teams.
Yeah.
But yes, it will be interesting and will be really a good end of the a fairy tale story for Nottingham Forest if they manage to qualify for the Champions League.
It would be.
Yeah. So we'll come back next week to see what's going to happen. And I don't expect anything to change this weekend, to be honest with you. But anyway, we'll be here next week as well.
Cheers, Nicos.